Lilly, and I'm Deputy Commissioner here at Jobs and Skills Australia. And I'm really delighted to be able to join you today at your forum looking at manufacturing on the Sunshine Coast. And I really would have loved to have been with you, but thank you so much to Mel for inviting me. But before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge that I'm actually on the lands of the Wurundjeri people here in Melbourne, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and ask that you do similarly to the lands that you're on today. I'm just going to take you through pretty quickly about a little bit about JSA and a few things to think about in terms of your forum. And I'm really pleased that you're having this forum. I think it's a great credit to you all to be looking into the challenges that you have in terms of building your workforce for the future and how you go about that and what the best things to do are. But just in terms of JSA, we have 5 commissioner outcomes that really drive our annual and ongoing work plans, and you can see them there on the screen in front of you. And they're really self-evident. I won't explain them terribly much today, but we're obviously fostering inclusive participation is incredibly important. And we do a lot of work around that, such as we did a big project on gender economic equality last year, and we're looking at a disability stream this year. We do a lot of work and data, surveys, data, the like, on understanding the current workforce, but we also focus on the future workforce. And I really know how important that is to you because it's part of the challenge that you're looking into. We also look at the systems architecture and how the skilling system can best meet these challenges. And I actually will touch on that as we finish up today. And also activating an informed dialogue. So having an evidence-based conversation to help think through and inform the directions at the national level, but most importantly at the local level. And that's indeed what you're doing today. So, congratulations. Just quickly, we do have an annual work plan that gets approved and signed off by the Minister. That QR code will take you there, and I do commend it to you to have a look at all of the things that we're doing over the next short period of time before we develop our next work plan. But it's a really active space with lots of interesting work. If we look at the labour market over the past decade, just have a quick look backwards before we have a quick look forward, we can see that our labour market or our workforce, more to the point, has actually been shifting quite significantly over that period of time. I mean, you can see the service industries continue to grow. That's not a new story, but it's a continuing story. And if anything, it's accelerating. But that doesn't mean other areas aren't growing, but they're growing at a lesser rate. But I think what this slide doesn't tell us is that the composition of skills within those industries, whether they're growing at a really fast rate or a slower rate, is also changing. So not only is there a change in the volume of employment, but the different combination of skills. And we know those skills are getting higher in terms of higher skill demands, occupational skill level 1. But if we look forward over the next 10 years, we also see a similar pattern continuing. And this really is about you can see employment projections for the next 10 years to May 2035 continuing to grow across all skill occupational levels, but certainly at the higher skill levels in particular. And we know that 9 out of 10 jobs in the future will require either a vocational or higher education qualification, and really that the really strong demand in both sectors will need to be met. You can actually do different modelling and you get slightly different answers, and we're continuing to look at that at JSA because we really need to know how systems can perform best to help support the work that you're doing. But even if it comes off a little bit in terms of demand around the high school levels, it actually does remain strongly in demand. The other area that I want to focus a little bit on is occupational shortages, or skill shortages as they're often referred to, and it's something that you've been living with on a daily basis for quite many years now, and it really is a constraint and very challenging to deal with. And it is actually a drag on productivity, and Australia's productivity has been lagging, like many other similar countries around the world. So we're not alone, but like everyone else, we really have to stare into it and try and work out what we can do to really help boost productivity. And we do know that skills is part of that equation, and getting the right skills in the right place is in fact the challenge. We also know a few things about skill shortages. We have many high demand occupational areas across the economy, and construction's often quoted to be one of those. We also know that those areas with significant skill shortages also have very considerable gender imbalances as well. So you get heavily male-oriented workers in the construction sector and very, very female workers. Similarly, the care sector, actually the other way around. And so the higher the gender segregation, the higher the skills shortage, and also the lower the productivity growth. So there's a real challenge there to pick through some of those issues to try and sort of, really alleviate some of it, but also importantly, create opportunities for more people in the labour market going forward. Just quickly, we've also done a regional roadmap. We released phase 1 last year, and phase 2 will be out at the end of March this year. And that really is looking at a whole lot of data around the skilling system, the labour market, the employment systems at the more local level, regional level. At the moment, it's on a state basis, so jurisdictional. Phase 2 will take it down to regions within jurisdictions, but looking at a complex set of indicators over time that you can actually look at yourself. There's a dashboard to support all of this, to really see what's happening at the local level and where some of those challenges are and what the pipeline into work is building up, like youth attainment. It could be unemployment. You're looking at those not into education, training and employment. Those NEET levels, they're terribly high in the regional areas, so there's a real challenge around that. But tertiary participation, employment fill rates and all those sorts of things. So to get that richness of the picture in your area, I commend you to look at the phase 1 of the roadmap, but in particular look forward to phase 2, which will really start nuancing your particular region as well. And just lastly, I did mention about the skill system, and I was asked by Mel, thanks Mel, to talk a little bit about the taxonomy. And I want to draw your attention to this very significant national project we're undertaking. We're actually about to start piloting this year. Last year, we did a lot of work about getting a better definition of skill in this country, one that covers vocational education, higher education and employment and the labour market more broadly. And it's a broad, inclusive definition. It's not just technical, which is the history of narrow definitions of skill that often just lapse into task. It is a much broader, more inclusive definition, including things like cognitive skills, creative skills, interpersonal skills, which are really all of the skills workers will need, particularly in the AI world ahead of us. So that's been a critical part of the work. We're now starting the piloting of the taxonomy with a full build starting July this year. When I say just what a taxonomy is, in reality, it's a language. We're creating a language for skills. It's a coherent, consistent language that people can use across those 3 sectors that will underpin qualifications, it will underpin labour mobility, underpin recognition systems, credit transfer and all the like. At the moment, we're all using different languages, words with different meanings, or same word, but using it in a different way. And this is really problematic and also another barrier to freeing up some of these things that we need to do. There is a very significant global movement around skills taxonomies at the moment, and we're working with Singapore and their OECD, and certainly a growing movement around skills first, whether it's employment or recruitment or just skills first recognition practices. I'll happily talk to you more about that down the track, but focusing on the taxonomy at the moment, which is really about people and helping people have the language to describe their experiences and build out beyond qualifications, including qualifications, but beyond qualifications, to capture the richness and depth of skill of a person over their entire working life, not just in the formal education moments. I'm going to leave that with you there. That's a really big piece of work, very important. But finally, have a great day, a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it, and I commend you for spending time together to talk through what can only be described as incredibly important issues. Thank you very much.